pandemic, we must do our part to spread our gratitude and not COVID-19. Miami-Dade County reminds you that the safest way to celebrate is only with the people in your immediate household, preferably outdoors. Even better, share a virtual dinner with family and friends. Deliver meals to loved ones without contact. Shop for holiday deals online. And watch sports, parades, and movies at home. Be safe. Remember, wear a mask, keep your distance, and wash your hands. Visit miamidade.gov/coronavirus.
Any further introduction needed, Mr. Shelly Berg.
Thank you, Marcello.
Yeah. Woo, that was the Dean of the Frost School of Music, highly acclaimed Shelly Berg, playing some solo piano. That was a tune called Voyage, right?
That's correct, by Kenny Barron.
That's right.
I thought I'd play all pieces of music by people I know today because so many know or knew, so many great, wonderful composers, creators of this music, and I've had the privilege of getting to know many of them, and it's fun to play their music.
Yeah, I can sure tell. I mean, just watching you play is just always a joy of mine, and I could sit here and watch you play all day. So,
thanks, Marcello.
Yeah, of course. So, what do you have next for us?
So, of course, Kenny Barron, one of the great jazz pianists, one of my influences, and it was fun to play that song. And this is the next song is by a gentleman who lives in L.A., who spent a whole career in the film and television industry, composing, conducting, arranging. His name is Artie Butler. And he's a really special person. And he wrote a song that's become very, very popular in jazz. And I think it's appropriate right now. Shirley Horn made a great recording of it. Joe Williams made a great recording of it. It's called Here's to Life.
All right. Here's to Life. What a beautiful tune.
Isn't that a great song?
Wonderful, wonderful. That was Here's to Life, written by Artie Butler, right? If I'm correct. So first, thank you so much, Shelly, for being here with us and blessing our hearts with some beautiful music. We need it right now in these times. So
That's for sure.
So you've invested pretty much everything, so much into this art form, over the course of your career, from being a choral director when you were very young and writing a piece of music when you were 9 that was performed by a symphony orchestra, right?
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. Arranging for, film work and working on your current projects now, working and accompanying artists like Gloria Estefan, Mickey Gilley, Bill Watrous, the list goes on. How would you say it all began for you, and what was the moment that made you think, all right, I'm going to be doing music the rest of my life. I'm going to go into this no matter what happens?
I can't remember not thinking that. I think at 4 years old, I felt that I was a musician. And I've never felt that I was anything else. And so it was never a choice. It was never, what do I want to be when I grow up? I already was. I already was a musician. And somehow, if you think about connecting a circuit like in electricity to have power, when I put my hands on the piano, that's the connection, right? That completes the circuit of who I am. Yeah. And it's mystical. As I was just playing that song, if I tried to play some of the things that I played, it wouldn't work out very well. I'd get nervous. I can't play that. I can't suddenly my hands go down 2 or 3 octaves in an arpeggio and hit a note down there. If I thought about it, I'd be scared to death. So it's mystical. But I've always been a musician, and I think and I'm sure you feel the same way, I think it's a blessing when you just sort of always know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. That's kind of how I felt. I was surrounded by music when I grew up, and you're the son of a musician also. Right. So yeah. Just being surrounded by that and that environment and the encouragement and just loving it, as far as you can remember. You can't even remember not loving it. So, I mean, it's the same thing for me. So I have so much respect for that. You're also very knowledgeable of a whole array of American songbook tunes, and you like to talk about this a lot in your master classes. Right. I know when I was out in Aspen, we were out there and we talked a lot about that. Not only knowing the melody and the harmony and how the tune flows in that way, but also knowing the lyrics, knowing the story behind the tune, knowing the message. That helps you really shape the tune a lot, and you talk about that, and that was really inspiring for me. How did you get so good at doing that, internalizing all this vital information? And maybe has it come with working with a lot of vocalists? And how's that been for you?
Yeah, it's all part of our artistic journey, right? Because every artist's journey often begins more inward facing. What technique am I building? What am I learning how to do? What can I do? You don't want to have barriers to what you can express, but at first it becomes about the things you do. The chops you have. And then as you mature as an artist, hopefully it's more and more about the song, the material, the uniqueness of what you're playing and giving yourself over to that. So, you mentioned that my father was a musician. He was a really great one. He was a great jazz trumpeter, also a classical musician, and a real mentor to me. And my mother was not a musician at all, but she knew, I would say, more lyrics to songs in the Great American Songbook than just about anybody except Tierney Sutton, who I think knows every lyric of every song. And if I was driving to Little League or piano lessons or whatever with my mother, she was always singing songs from the Great American Songbook. So I always associated the song to the lyric. And even in our the 8-track player in our car, there were Sinatra or Nancy Wilson or Sammy Davis. And we were always, my mother and I, appreciating the song and the lyric. And my mother and I actually spoke in song lyrics. She would use a song lyric, and it was almost like a game we played. And so she, even though my father was my musical mentor, she really helped me make that connection of the music to the song. And as I learned more and realized, wow, there's only 12 harmonic idioms in the whole Great American Songbook, and there's 4 or 5 of them that are used a lot. it could sure seem like all the songs are the same, but when you get into it and the lyric and the way the melody and the harmony and the lyric come together, you find out no two songs are really the same. And rather than playing the chords, you play the individual song. And that's been something that's evolved over my life and something that's made music that much more meaningful to me.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I can relate to that as well. My grandmother, who passed a few years ago, probably knew every lyric to every song too, in the American song. And because of that, so did my mother, passing it along in generations. And, I really wish personally that I could internalize lyrics more. So, I mean, what is something that someone like me can do to really just focus on that or the story of the song more? Just listening to more lyrics, and how would you say?
Yeah, and it's not so much a contest over whether your particular set of abilities includes the ability to memorize a lot of lyrics. In learning the lyric, you learn the essence of what the song's about. And even if you can't recite the lyric back, you've learned what the song is really about, and you've learned where those special moments are and how that works. And so it doesn't matter to me if you know all the lyrics of all the songs you're playing. It matters to me if you've studied the lyric, and that gives you the information you need to play that song.
Right. Yeah, because some songs don't even have lyrics, so you have to figure out how to approach them without knowing really what it's about. How would you go about approaching a tune without lyrics, and learning how that...
You have to decide what it means to you. Because when you're improvising, you're writing a story over that original premise. So you have to decide what it means to you. I did an album many years ago with the drummer Peter Erskine and the bassist John Fremgen. And John was his date, and he wanted to do the song Soul Eyes by Mal Waldron. And now, to this day, I hate to admit this because I'm the lyric guy, I don't know if Soul Eyes has a lyric. And I certainly didn't know then if it had a lyric. So I had to say, okay, here's a song we're playing that's kind of a standard, and I don't know if it has a lyric. So what am I going to do? So I thought about the song, and I thought about my father, who at that time was still alive, but he was getting older. I thought about his eyes and how they weren't as sharp and clear as they had been. The color starts to fade and all that. But I thought about what I see when I look in my father's eyes. And, my father played with Charlie Parker. You see all the way back in history. And so I thought about my father's eyes and use the song to extrapolate a story about that, and that's how I was able to play that.
Wow. So basically using the title, relating it to an experience that you had or a relationship that you had with your father, that's a pretty amazing thing. I'm going to try and do that with a tune next tune I play. That's amazing. How about you play us one more song before we take a break?
Sure. Another person that along with playing the songs of the people is an actual alum of our school, Pat Metheny. And one of the great musicians of our time, a great inspiration, and one of the nicest people you will ever, ever know. And he's a champion for young musicians. He's always looking for young musicians to hire. So he's an inspiration, and he's written so many songs. And this is one that I recorded on my CD called Blackbird. Mm-hmm. At a time like this, it's also a good one to play. It's called Question and Answer, and you can hear that in the song. You can hear the questions, and it's seeking an answer, right? So
definitely.
It does some things you don't expect in a song, and that, I think, is part of its premise. So I'd like to play that now.
All right, Question and Answer by Pat Metheny right here on WDNA's 88.9 FM. Answer by Pat Metheny. So before we take a quick short break, I just want to remind our viewers that next week right here on WDNA's 88.9 FM, we have a good friend of mine, Joshua Platt, and his group will be right here at 11 a.m. for an hour playing. I believe Leo Folsom's going to be on piano and Jesse Katz on bass, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be a lot of fun. But yeah, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with some more music and exciting announcements about the future with the Dean of the Frost School of Music, Mr. Shelly Berg. We'll be right back. And then about the Dee Dee Bridgewater thing, and then you can play us out. I got to leave about 5 because I got rehearsal. I got big band rehearsal. By the time I finish. I will. Yeah, so that should work out. Oh, ready? All right, welcome back to this edition of the Frost Jazz Hour right here on WDNA's 88.9 FM. For those of you just tuning in, we are here with a very special guest, Mr. Dean Shelly Berg, Dean of the Frost School of Music. He's serenaded us with some great music, and it's been really great talking to him about some things. So I wanted to first ask you, you've been on both the composer, director, and arranging side and performing side of things, throughout your career. How have all of these things fed into each other, and who would you say are some of your biggest role models throughout this development and doing all these different things in music?
They all feed into each other because writing an arrangement is very similar to playing the piano if you're accompanying somebody, right? Because the song has this thing that we've talked about that it's about. The piece of music has something that it's about. And the arrangement helps to put whoever the soloist is, a singer or whatever, in the perfect frame of mind to express that. And so I want to do that whether I'm playing piano solo, arranging a trio record, arranging for a great singer. So it's very synergistic. They feel like the same thing in many ways. And, again, in that artistic journey, there's so many things you learn how to do, reharms, new harmonies, and cool, I'll put it in 7/8 or whatever, all those things. None of those are the reason to do anything. Right? The reason to do anything is to take what that song means and amplify it or show it in a new light that gives it, that adds to the meaning of it. And that means if you make one of those decisions, it's in service of that. And so I love that whether I'm playing or arranging.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to take the meaning away from the song. You don't want to distract. I mean, you want to add some nice little colors in there, but at the same time, you don't want to take away what someone has created. They created the song. You don't want to completely ruin it, or else nobody's going to recognize what they've created. So
I've had great kidding arguments with 2 of our wonderful alums, Emmett Cohen and Veronica Swift, both for playing You Don't Know What Love Is as a burning fast swing. It's like, how can you play this song that is at the depth of despair? And they said, well, you can. You can think that your depth of despair is manic. So if that works for them, that's fine. As long as you have a reason, you're not just doing it so you can, say, check me out.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. And it must be, both of them are such incredible artists, Veronica Swift and Emmett Cohen, both came out of the Frost School of Music and are now absolutely flourishing in the world of jazz. Even amidst this pandemic, they've been doing some amazing live stream things. So if you haven't already, every Monday, Emmett Cohen does a live stream on Facebook with his trio, and they have some great camera angles and microphones, and the whole thing sounds great. And it's just, I've watched it develop over the last 7-8 months. I'm sure you've been absolutely impressed with what your former students have done over the years.
Very much so. At the core of it is artistry and everything they know about communicating to an audience and communicating the music. And then there's all those things they've done to curate a career, which the two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of them. They both placed in the Downbeat Readers Poll this past week, and that's reserved for the top 25 musicians in the world on any instrument or voice. And so for artists so young to already be kind of in the middle of the pack of that top 25 in that poll is amazing.
Yeah, and they're moving further up, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I consider them some of my top 10 favorite musicians right now. I mean,
I'm with you.
It's amazing, yeah. So also, I was going to ask, who's your biggest inspiration, probably as a composer, arranger,
Oh, yes.
and performer?
Well, I've had a lot of them. I mean, with arranging, there are probably three. Klaus Ogerman, Johnny Mandel, and now I won't think of the third. No, and Robert Farnon. And Farnon was probably an influence on the other two. A Brit who really created that style of arranging that we think of as the kind of Johnny Mandel, Klaus Ogerman style. And, I always tell students to think about the opportunities you have and what they're worth. When I was in my early 20s, living in Houston, an artist came, I won't mention the artist, to play with the Houston Pops Orchestra, and here's why I'm not mentioning his name. This was before Finale, this was before, you could send anything over the internet. We're talking about in the 70s, Yeah. And he had a whole bunch of new arrangements by Klaus Ogerman, 5 or 6 new arrangements. But he hadn't gotten them copied. He figured that the orchestra would pay for it and he'd get free copying.
Oh, my.
Right? So all he sent were the scores. So I got a call from the conductor of the Houston Pops Orchestra who knew I was really studying this stuff. He said, I've got 6 Klaus Ogerman scores. I don't have much money to pay you, but would you copy them? By hand, copying every part, all the strings, all the winds, everything. I said, I would pay you to copy these parts. Now, I was going to school every day, and I was working 6 nights a week playing in a band. So I had no time. But I copied all those Klaus Ogerman charts because of what I could learn. Now, all that stuff is so available, you can just go on the internet and find anything. But back then, you couldn't find that.
Right.
He had just written those things. So those are kind of my heroes of arranging, and they've really been a guide to me. And my first big hero in jazz was Oscar Peterson. And that was the fountain from which everything else came. And, it took me a long way because, today I would probably say Keith Jarrett is maybe the purest, most inspiring pianist we've had in a long, long time. So he's very far from Oscar Peterson. So one inspiration leads to others.
Absolutely. And you have a record out with your trio that's a dedication to Oscar Peterson, right?
I do. That great trio was Ray Brown and Ed Thigpen. Ray Brown on bass and Ed Thigpen on drums. And they're both gone now, but when I recorded this record, it was sort of living out a lifelong dream. They were my rhythm section. And I always say it was always a dream to see what I'd sound like with, I could do that if I had the same rhythm section, and that destroyed the myth. I had great fun recording with them. I have lots of great anecdotes and stories from that session. I'm really proud of that record, which is called The Will.
Wow. Please check that out. That's something special. Also, before you play some more music for us, I'm personally really impressed with how the Frost School of Music has been doing over these last 5-6 months of school we've had, dealing with the COVID circumstances really well compared to a lot of other schools that aren't even getting the chance to play, rehearse, or be in person. And most of our classes here at Frost are in person. We're doing a lot of playing. We're doing a lot of We're doing some performing in front of small live audiences. And this has given us the chance to bring in the new technology in our Gusman Hall and things like that. how have you felt about the approach that we've had over the course of the semester, and how do things look for the future?
I've been thrilled about it. Associate Dean of our school, Serona Elton, has really led the charge, and she's been beyond what anybody could expect. But we started working literally around the clock last March about how we were going to do this. Kudos to President Julio Frank, who's an epidemiology expert and a pandemic expert, who knew that we could and should open safely. And so it would take more than the time of this broadcast to describe all the safety measures we've put in place. But the upshot of it is this. We have a culture among our students that's mutually supportive. The students want to keep each other well, and they're doing it. And so the Frost School, even though Miami's numbers and university have been low, the Frost schools have been an exponent lower than the rest of the university. And we're more at risk on paper because we play and sing instruments. Right. We've had 0 transmission of COVID in any class or ensemble. We had a player of a wind instrument who got COVID off campus, didn't know, played at an orchestra concert, and nobody else in the concert got it. And that means that the safety measures we've put in place work. So the students can feel good that if they're responsible when they're not on campus, and they follow our rules on campus, we're going to be able to continue to play and sing. And as you alluded to, at the same time, we've really been maximizing how to record and edit multi-camera video, and how to put our music on the internet, how to live stream, how to record pieces of music. For classical musicians to record music where they're recording one at a time, jazz musicians do that sometimes, but classical musicians almost never do. And so they're learning so many skills that when they get out of the pandemic, they're going to have more ways to make a living, not fewer.
Yeah, absolutely. And even before we came back to school, we've been all trying to find ways to do things virtually. But now that we have the resources here at school and, faculty members with so much knowledge, and a dean such as yourself, just the possibilities are endless right now. So we have to take it in stride and try and find the good and the positives and come out of this with so much more than we expected. So let's hear some more music, and then I'll ask you about a very special few things coming up virtually and live. So what are you going to play for us next?
This is a song by someone I know quite well. It's by me. It's about a wonderful young woman who passed away about 30 years ago. And she had a series of health problems that would make anybody feel that the world was not worth it. She had brain surgery. She had heart surgery. She had cancer. She had all of these things. And she was the most effervescent, positive person you would ever want to know. And when she lost the battle, her name was Maureen, but people called her Mo. I wrote a song probably the day that I found out, and it's called For Mo. And so I wrote this song maybe 30 years ago, and I just thought about it again recently. I hadn't played it in, 20 years. So
wow.
This is called For Mo.
Was Mo a musician? Just wondering.
She was not, but her husband was. He played trumpet with Woody Herman and Buddy Rich and became one of the main studio trumpet players in Los Angeles. He's no longer with us either.
Wow.
But when I mentioned this song to Tierney Sutton, that maybe we should write a lyric and do something with it, I said, you probably never heard of Nelson Hatt, who was a trumpet player. She said, he's the reason my first husband and I got married. He's the one that brought us together. So that's how small the world of music is.
Sure is. For Mo, Shelly Berg. nice tune. That was written by Shelly Berg himself. That was for Mo. Beautiful. What a
Thank you.
great arrangement of that. I'm sure you've played that many different ways over the 30 years that you've been playing it for.
Yeah, that's true. And of all of us, right?
Sure.
Our thoughts and how we approach a song evolves along with us.
Wow. Well, I'm sure Mo is thanking you from above.
I can still see her. You know, that's the beauty about doing something like that, is it takes you back.
Sure.
And I see her in her goodness and in her light. And that's how I remember her when I play that song.
Yeah. Wow. I'll have to ask you about the chords in that. I really liked the way that flowed and everything. So there's some special things in the works or coming up that you've been really working tirelessly on. And I wanted to first ask you about this collaboration that's going on with some of our students in the HMI orchestra. You've been mixing a project that they're collaborating with 5 or more incredible names, such as Gloria Estefan and her daughter Emily, and Celine Dion, Andrea Bocelli, Stevie Wonder. I mean, the list goes on. It's incredible. And this is a huge production that Shelly's been working on. So please tell us the details about this.
Well, I've been fortunate since I moved to Miami to develop a really wonderful, warm relationship with Gloria and Emilio Estefan. They are as wonderful as people can be, and this project is a real example of that because Emilio is producing a tribute to nurse heroes.
Yeah.
And all the proceeds, it's a fundraiser for nurse heroes, for nurses. And when Emilio asks, everybody says yes. So in addition to the people you mentioned, Josh Groban, Carole King, Oprah Winfrey, Billy Crystal, Whoopi Goldberg, the Black Eyed Peas, the Wailers, the list goes on. So it's going to be an amazing show, and Emilio asked me to be a musical director and co-producer and arrange and produce some of the music for the show. And one song in particular mentions all of those people that you mentioned, plus Josh Groban.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all on that song. David Foster's also in this, Catherine McPhee. Mm-hmm. And so it's actually sort of a pinch me moment because I was in the studio mixing an arrangement I did till very late last night. But I looked down at the mixing console and you could see they put masking tape on a mixing console so they can identify what's on each track. And they had all the vocal tracks there. And they had A, B, J, G. And so I'm looking at that right next to each other. Bocelli, Groban, Celine, Gloria, Stevie. Who gets to do this? And then the orchestra for this was the Henry Mancini Institute Orchestra from the Frost School. They got to play this. They were filmed. They're going to be on this special. The school and our students are going to get credit. They all got paid. And what a thrill to be able to provide our students with these kind of real-world experiences because they go to the Frost School. I just don't think this would have happened anywhere else.
I don't think so. And the fact that they're going to be on the same bill as some of these, incredible artists and names in the music world and just in the world in general. I think of Stevie Wonder as probably one of my biggest influences, and I'm sure many other people do.
Me too.
And just to see all those names in a row is just something special. So, stay tuned for that. Where is this going to be broadcasted and when?
It's a live stream. Well, it's not a live stream. It's recorded and it's going to be streamed, although some of the elements are live. Some of the spoken elements, the hosts. And it's going to be Thanksgiving night. And it'll be, I think, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I think it's right between the football games.
Yeah.
And it's streaming, so YouTube, the NBC platforms, and probably some others, because there's so many stars now that there's a lot of interest in more and more people becoming involved. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's coming out really well, and I'm proud to be associated with it. I'm proud that our school's associated with it.
I'm proud to be going to a school that's associated with it. Wow, that's going to be very amazing. So please tune in for that on Thanksgiving night. Also wanted to I hear that you're also going to be a part of an upcoming live stream performance tomorrow, I believe, or this weekend?
Saturday evening.
Saturday evening at Pinecrest Gardens featuring the great Dee Dee Bridgewater.
The great Dee Dee Bridgewater, and the trio features my colleague and your professor, Chuck Bergeron, on bass, and a Frost alum, Mike Pilot, on drums.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't seen Michael in a while. He's coming in from Chicago to do this with us. And Dee Dee Bridgewater is amazing. The breadth of the projects that she's done, the things she's been involved with as a humanitarian. She's an NEA jazz master. She's a magnificent artist. I love her. Audiences love her. She's got one of the biggest followings worldwide. I mean, she's a straight-ahead jazz singer who has more than 1 million views on some of her videos. And Pinecrest Gardens, they have grants that pay the musicians to do these concerts, and so all the proceeds are going to help people in the COVID era. So you can go to Pinecrest Gardens and register and sign up for this concert and see a great live concert. It's actually happening while you're watching it, and know that the proceeds are going to benefit people.
Wow, it's the best of every world. Amazing. Just the fact that we're going to be able to hear some amazing live music, and that the funds are going to go to such a great cause to help us maybe get out of the pandemic we're currently in. Well, we're about out of time, but I think maybe one more song to play us to the top of the hour. But it's been really great having conversation with you, talking about some of these new things coming up and your development as an artist. And I look forward to maybe our collaboration in the future.
I'm sure that we'll have lots of collaboration in the future. I have no doubt about that, because you're one of my favorite drummers. So you know how much I enjoy whenever we get to do music together. And so that, as long as I can keep my chops up, we'll have collaborations in the future.
Oh, man, same here. No, that means a lot. Thank you. Well, you've heard it from the great Shelly Berg, the Dean of the Frost School of Music. He's going to play one last song for us, play us into the top of the hour right here on WDNA's 88.9 FM, the home of Serious Jazz. Next week at the same time, you'll have Josh Platt and his group performing with us. So what's the last tune you're going to be playing?
This whole show's been about people that I know or knew, and I looked up on the wall here at the station, and there's a picture of Freddie Hubbard, who I had an opportunity to play with on many occasions.
Wow.
And an amazing musician who played piano very well, so he could show you, if you weren't playing his songs right, he could show you the actual voicing or the actual intro and all that. And in fact, I don't want to mess up his intro because I haven't played it in a long time, so I'm not going to play his intro to this song. But this is one of his early compositions. It's based on the 12-bar blues. It's called Bird-like. And so I'll close out this show and say how much I enjoyed being with you with Freddie Hubbard's Bird-like.
All right.
One more minute of music?